told you, didn't I? Everything you're doing is useless, Ashton Frey. And now, you're dying. Meddlesome fool.
Outside, another streak of lightning flashes and a clap of thunder ripples across the sky. Here, there's only a whispered sigh. A fading breath. A lone heart that beats hard one last time. She got one thing wrong, though. She got one thing wrong. I didn't die alone! You stupid bitch! Hello everyone and welcome back to The Letter. Last time we were here, Ash got rejected, and then he died. That's just the simplified version. Anyways, we will take a drink for our boy in the form of water. Oh wait, we have journal stuff. Hold on. Let's do this real quick. October 29th, Ashton Frey received a phone call from the chief of Luxbourne Police first thing in the morning, informing him that he had been taken off the Luxbourne firm case. Although his protests fell on deaf ears, this sudden turn of events proved a hunch. Rebecca confronted Ashton about what happened at the party the night before. Unable to tell her any details, the latter chose to stretch the truth. It led to another argument and ended with Rebecca slamming the door closed on him. Disturbed by the ruckus outside her unit, Isabella reprimanded Ashton for the noise. The latter noted her disheveled appearance and puffy eyes, although before he could ask about it, she brought up the issue with BRC again, and insisted they both look into it that night. While waiting for Isabella, Ashton called Professor Andrew Clark to inform him of his dismissal from the Luxbourne firm case. While Andrew assured him that it was fine, the detective promised to keep an eye on the case. However, a realization cut the conversation short. To confirm their suspicions, Isabella helped Ashton break into the Briar Realty Corporation's Luxbourne office that night. There, the files they found revealed the real deal with the mansion's sale that was unknown even to Isabella, and something possibly more terrible. While gathering what they found, Ashton accidentally brought up Isabella's father, who had apparently passed away the day before. Suddenly, her reasons for trying to fix this mess became clear to him, but in his attempt to comfort her, he only ended up upsetting her further. Ashton and Isabella beat a quick exit after getting what they needed, making sure not to leave evidence of their break-in. On their way out, however, the elevator malfunctioned and dropped them in the building's basement parking instead, where a familiar face welcomed them. October 30th. After that close call, Ashton spent the night at Isabella's only to be kept awake by nightmares. At an utter loss and with all of his beliefs overturned, Ashton decided to check on Zachary and Rebecca. Unfortunately, only Zachary returned his calls. After leaving their friends, Ashton returned to Isabella's apartment. He found the girl already up and about, cooking. Seeing his exhaustion, Isabella reminded him that he should take care of himself first and offered him food. With a muttered thanks, he accepted. Zachary arrived at Salem Well tired and frazzled. Upon learning that he had come from the Ermengarde mansion that morning, Ashton could only express his relief that he was safe. An amused Zachary teased him for worrying, much to the other man's embarrassment. To Ashton and Isabella's relief, Rebecca later called back. Soon, she showed up at the Salem Well looking worse for wear. When the detective pointed it out, annoyed that she might have also ignored his warnings, the redhead was quick to retaliate. Fortunately, before it brewed into a fight, Isabella stepped in. With the help of his friends, Ashton tried to find a way to free themselves of the curse, piecing together what they currently know. But before they could figure it out, a ruckus coming from Isabella's closet broke the silence of the room. October 31st. After spending the night at the local park, Ashton and his friends try to figure out what their next step will be. However, coupled with fatigue and stress, the conversation quickly went downhill. Frustrated, Ashton walked out, suggesting they cool their heads first. After the argument at the park, Ashton took his friends someplace where they could rest. G welcomed them to his pub without question while the others were sleeping. The detective and the bartender had a little chat about the past and what had changed over the years. Zachary's arrival interrupted Ashton's conversation with G. Left alone, the two attempted to mend things between them only for things to almost turn sour, after Ashton revealed his plans to return to the mansion. His friend eventually acquiesced after Ashton agreed to a time limit. When Ashton showed up at the pub's main lounge again, he caught Rebecca and Isabella in the middle of an argument. The latter insisted on going back to the mansion, while the former strongly opposed. However, before Ashton could step in, harsh words had already been said. After scolding Rebecca for her harsh tone, a concerned Ashton followed after Isabella. He found her alone in a corner of the lounge, upset. Despite agreeing with her, he gently explained why going back wouldn't be a good idea. Thankfully, she eventually acquiesced. Ashton left for the mansion at nightfall, but when he got to his car, he found Rebecca waiting for him. Fearing she might not have the chance, Rebecca confessed her feelings, but before he could answer, Rebecca stopped him, admitted she had been selfish and she was letting him go. She only wanted him to know. November 1st. The storm had started in earnest when Ashton arrived at the mansion. While trying to find a way in, the detective noticed the eerie silence that had enveloped the place. Something was wrong inside, but before he could figure it out, the sobs of a woman suddenly echoed. After his fall, Ashton found himself in an underground passage when he came to. There he encountered Marianne McCullough, who got trapped in one of the jail cells for several days. The detective managed to free her, and in turn she helped him find a way into the mansion. Before he could go deeper into the wine cellar, Ashton began to hear voices coming from the mirror shards on the floor, mocking him for his failures. Though before he could do anything rash, Marianne stopped him. Belatedly, he realized he had picked up a broken mirror shard. Upon reaching the kitchen, the crying Ashton heard from outside began anew. Unwilling to risk a civilian, the detective handed Marianne his taser and advised her to leave him if he didn't return after 15 minutes, even if he himself was uncertain if he would. Upon reaching the kitchen, the crying Ashton heard from outside began anew. On alert, he continued deeper into the mansion, even if he was uncertain if he would get out of the place alive. The sobs led Ashton to the mansion's attic. In the middle of the room, he found a woman crouched on the floor, crying. Cautiously, he approached her, but as he was about to reach out for her, someone grabs him from behind. Ashton attempted to fight back, but his attacker quickly disarmed him, looping a towel around his neck and strangling him. But just when he was about to lose consciousness, a familiar voice rings in the room and... Having recovered, Ashton quickly urged Isabella to move, knowing it wasn't safe to stay idle. Without warning, however, Isabella slapped him, furious at him for keeping people in the dark. She reminded him of what was important, and with it came a realization about himself. Understanding how much she also meant to him, Ashton took both of her hands in his and apologized, and in a rare moment of honesty confessed how he truly felt for her. However, though thankful, Isabella was unable to return his feelings and turned him down. Together, Ashton and Isabella carefully made their way downstairs. However, instead of a hallway, the kitchen greeted them instead. Before they could understand what was happening, it slammed shut behind them and the whole mansion had started to shift. After a long, desperate run in search of a way out, the house calmed down for some reason. An exit was finally in sight. Waiting on the other side, however, is Luke. Always in a suit, never in anything else. His whole attire, the same suit. Not wanting to risk anything, Ashton quickly disarmed Luke in 2 shots, but before he could move to tackle him, a wail echoed throughout the mansion. In the haze of memories and voices, he noticed something fly by, rapidly heading towards Zachary. His body moved on its own. For this image, it's... Oh. Was it a fire poker? I thought it was a spear. Receiving a fatal wound, the last thing Ashton heard before darkness filled his vision is a mocking laughter echoing in the foyer. At the top of the grand staircase stood the ominous figure of Hannah Wright. Ashton Ashfray. Birthday, December 26, Capricorn, 29 years old. He is 5'5". Little man. He is a detective inspector. He's American-Japanese. He's non-practicing Christian and has a bachelor's degree in forensic science. He likes taiyaki ice cream. Shirley. I don't know who that... Oh, his car. Ophelia. I don't know who that is. old-timey action movies and thrillers, kart racing, jazz and swing, Sherlock Holmes, justice. There was little love between his parents, and though he grew up privileged, he found little joy in student life. He saw the standard testing system as a chore and considers his popularity among his peers to be an annoyance. Rebecca was the only one he considered a friend in St. Goretti, and he was no better when he went into university. Friend... no better in university. If anything, his indifferent outlook got worse with his parents' divorce. He initially took law, but was quickly disillusioned by how heavy-handed and abused the system was. Forensic science, on the other hand, became fascinating for him. I mean, I don't see how studying law and then going into the police force were really much different in their systems. He served a brief time as a police officer before he applied to join Luxbourne's criminal investigation department. Early on, he was too eager to deal out justice, but his numerous years in service became quite the learning experience for him. Now, as a detective inspector, he's been assigned to his biggest case yet. Lucille Mitchell Luke Wright. Interesting name. Born August 2nd, he's a Leo, 31 years old. He is 5'8", he is president and CEO, he is British. Though anytime I hear his accent, it still sounds not British at all. It's very slight. He's atheist, raised Anglican. He is a high school dropout, privately tutored. He likes bread pudding, dogs, wine, and absinthe, piano playing, daffodils, money, women, and power. Oh god. The first word I see. A prostitute's son, he spent his childhood roaming the streets begging or pickpocketing in order to avoid home. Home meant a too-drunk mother and her equally drunk client, some of who would take to beating the child out of anger if he so much as looked at them wrong. That meant he was always in trouble in one form or another. Nothing was done to correct it until, in a sober moment, his mother found out about the abuse and promised to take better care of her son. Luke was happy for a while, but his mother's bad habits led to an early grave and left him orphaned until his biological father, a businessman with no legitimate heir, sought him out. He was trained to inherit right enterprise, but along the way got mixed up with illegal activities. That put the company in a bad spot after his assistant ran off with a large sum of dirty money. Bankruptcy would have been inevitable if he hadn't married Hannah. His backstory definitely explains why he's the way he is. I still never understand when stuff like this happens where some rich dude finds where his illegitimate son is. Do you really pay attention to who you sleep with? How do you... Or do you just go through the area and you're just like, I remember that one. Let's see, does she have a kid that looks like me? I'm gonna DNA test. Oh, it is mine. You'd think that it would have been a one and done type of thing, and then that's the end. Unless, the mother contacted him at some point and was like, oh, this is yours. But then, if you're a prostitute, do you really keep that strong of a track on your clients to know where the baby came from? Anyways, that was the timeline and profiles. To say that I'm scared of what's happening is a gross understatement. Trouble of any sort is the last thing I want to get home to after a long day at work and a trip to the bar. And when I see Hannah near prostrate, I can only feel dread. She twitches and seizes, body wound and coiled tight before thrashing, shuddering and shaking. Like a woman possessed, her mouth falls open and her eyes roll to the back of her head. Yeah, I'd be terrified too. It has the hallmark signs of a seizure. The symptoms are similar enough. And that knowledge, the fact that I know this, only makes me feel worse. Any anger I had caused by our disagreement on parting ways, no matter how temporary she claimed it to be, disappeared. The alcohol-induced daze that I felt was brushed aside as I ran to help her. None of that mattered at the moment. Oh my god, when was this? How many days ago was this? But to hold her close is all I can do while she thrashes around. I know this is wrong, but I'm not supposed to hold her down, yet I do it out of instinct, reflex even. I'm terrified of hurting her, but I see no other way to keep Hannah from hurting herself. It takes a lot to keep myself from running off to get help when she needs me here. And it takes everything I have to keep myself intact. When she says my name, I realize that the seizures have stopped, but that doesn't make the dread go away.
Please.
What happened here? Who did this to you?
I don't know. I'm so sorry.
The sight of a tear-streaked face is enough to twist the knife in. It does not help that I'm at a loss as she is right now. I'm as lost as she is right now, and all I can say is...
It's alright. You're safe now, Hannah. You're safe now.
It takes a bit to go through the house with my inebriated self. That's even made worse by the fact that I had to carry a nearly unconscious person as well. I was about to give up two up until Shrokin showed up to lighten the load. He quietly takes her from me without question and brings her up to the bedroom. And me, well, I couldn't bring myself to follow, not right now. Not while I'm drunk and rattled by what had transpired. It's a miracle I was able to help at all. Here I am, sulking in a parlour chair with a glass of wine in hand. I can't even remember what particular vintage it is, and I practically did not care right
because
now.
when you're already drunk and still have problems, even more alcohol should help.
Of course, the butler chooses now to appear and be unhelpful.
You know what actually solves all problems? Death. But it is not recommended.
True.
Alcohol isn't a true solution either.
It's worked well enough for me.
I'd like to believe I can get my best ideas while I'm thoroughly hammered. Not everyone might agree, but they can't really do anything about it, can they? With a fuck ton of money comes great power, sometimes responsibility. And with that responsibility comes a lot of reasons to get drunk. Of course I can just tell responsibility to sod off if I was feeling reckless. And Christ, I must be really drunk if I'm thinking in circles. I just need something to focus on and I should be
How
fine.
is she? Is she alright?
If panic crept into my voice at the question, I don't let it show. It would be a show of weakness to be so frazzled, to show so much concern over a woman who's going to put me aside. People like him who work for me I trust with business but not with myself, never with that. Only Hannah has come so close. Only she has truly seen the man beneath the facade. Only her actions can wound me so.
Sleeping. Aside from a few bumps and bruises, she seems to be fine. A maid is watching over her for now. It is best not to leave her alone. But, if I may ask, what happened? I was in the gardens when I heard screaming. Did you...
No, it wasn't me.
I'm quick to be on the defensive. I may be capable of a lot of horrible things, but I would never harm her, of all people, no matter how angry I might become. I would never lay a hand on her to hurt her.
I didn't do anything. I wouldn't do anything like that. I don't even have a reason to.
You don't consider her wanting to be a part as reason?
It isn't. Well, it is. I don't want to talk about it right now. But what happens was I got home. She was seasoned in the kitchens. Is she ill?
Not that kind of doctor. But I've already scheduled your physician for a house call tomorrow morning.
Wait, what kind of doctor are you then?
We'll still have to monitor her as soon as she wakes up, and...
Oh god, things are coming back to me. I need a drink.
Really? You're still drinking?
Why, yes, it seems to be the bloody best time to be drinking. I'm allowed, aren't I? After all, I've just found my wife having a seizure, and I shouldn't give two shits about it. Not when she's about to leave me.
But I do. Goodness, I do. A big generous gulp just makes it so the taste... Oh, fuck. I'm good. A big generous gulp just makes it so that the taste of cherries, raspberries, and strawberries wash over my tongue. The thing too sweet considering its deceptively earthy aroma. Vlen's Vineyard, seasoned red, isn't really something to scoff at. I've had many good memories with this particular drink. That honestly sounds good, and I don't even like wine. This particular bottle, in fact, was a gift. It serves the purpose Lady Blairnot had given it to me to forget. All the same, whether I took this bottle or... I don't know how to say these names. I always see that word, still don't know how to say it. It is just a means to an end. I will probably have to finish the whole bottle to get drunker than I already am.
But no, she doesn't need to be taken care of. If she wants her time apart, she'll have it.
It'll break my heart to just let her go, but she deserves this much, doesn't she? We both deserve this much.
She's had her uses.
She's done a lot for me in the 7 years we've been together. I pursued her at first for the money. It was supposed to be strictly business. There might have been a time, too, when I considered taking her out of the picture so that I can do with the money as I please. I'd planned to manipulate her, and I feel horrible thinking about it. It's not going away. Okay. But along the way I had changed, if only for her. Perhaps my father would scoff, tell me I've gone soft. Maybe I have, does it matter? 7 long years. It had its ups and downs, and it certainly hasn't been a perfect marriage. We've had our fights, who hasn't? But those small moments where we could just laugh and be our happy selves were always magical. They made all these years worth it, and I had seen many more years to come. So where did I go wrong? I've loved only 2 women in my life. Mother dear, bless her soul, and Hannah, who had been my sunshine for so long. Losing her, I fear that I might become more like my father. Had Damon Wright stayed with Mother or any of the other numerous women he's had a child with, would he have been less of an embittered shell of a man? Would having a darling love in his life made him a better person? Perhaps it is bias of me to doubt so. I don't think I can ever see the old man in a favorable light.
I'm just surprised that you're not afraid. She might be leaving with delicate information.
Oh, she might know something. But if she hasn't done anything with the knowledge for this long, I don't think she would do anything now. If she had even an inkling of what I've done, what I'm capable of, she'll know it's not a good idea. Hannah's a smart woman.
Smart, kind, hard-working, generous, loyal. I can go on and wax poetic about her if I had any talent with the stuff.
Why don't you sit down and have a drink with me? Don't worry, it's not poisoned or anything.
Lonely? Oh, I suppose there's no harm.
With a shake of my head, I procure another glass and pour some of the red wine. Watching the red liquid is fascinating all on its own with my muddled brain that I barely noticed sloshing some of it and staining my suit. It'll be an utter bugger to clean, so I'm glad that it isn't my problem. Handing it over, I can't help but look up at the ceiling and let out a sigh. My eyes, damp, glazed over, though I won't let it go further than that. Raising my own glass for a toast, I clear my throat.
Do we really need a reason to? The world is messed up. War, terrorism, famine, poverty, loved ones and love lost. The world is a cesspool.
True.
Might as well be drunk if we're going to drown in it.
A bit less eloquent than your usual speeches, but zum Wohl.
A sip. A gulp. Refill. Rinse and repeat until the bottle of Vlin has barely a fifth left. I must have drunk most of it because I barely see Shrokin take a sip after his first glass. It certainly feels that way. I don't even think I can stand up, let alone walk. I'm all legless. My mind just feels so funny and everything else is equally hilarious. Bloody hell, I think I can make out faces of a bald man on the wallpapers. With the butler also standing up, he looks like a skyscraper from where I'm seated.
Jesus Christ, I have Sasquatch as a butler.
Rude. I have a great alcohol tolerance to this. Seeing how I'm a giggling wreck right now is, I assume, really bad. If there is any sober pot left to me, it'd probably shrivel up and die just thinking of the hangover that'll come in the morning. But I can't help but get distracted at the sight of moonlight peeking through the curtain, shiny and shimmering and absolutely splendid. Even if the night brought calm, it is the moon that always enamored me so. It is a second sun, but just as beautiful as my
I
sunshine.
want to go out and look at the moon. Mummy, I can't feel my legs.
Mutter, I am not. Don't tell me I have to carry you upstairs to bed.
You know, Hannah, she told that photo man that I was a trying husband. I can't even. The nerve of them, right? He goes and takes her out shopping, and they give me lip service in return. I bet they were talking shite while they were in the store spending my money. Am I a trying husband, Joe?
I wouldn't know. You're not my husband, are you? But you are a trying Dummkopf when you are this drunk.
I didn't even do nothing. I did my best to behave decent. Whiskey and Mint are just good friends, that's all. And that Rochelle woman's baby isn't mine. I swear, I couldn't love any other woman than Hannah. Hannah must be so tired. I'm a brat, aren't I? She said as such. I don't want Hannah to leave me, Joe. Oh God, she's the love of my life, you know? I'm a shiny human being without her. I should...
Kind of a shite human being, even with her, to be honest.
Flowers. Lots and lots of flowers. All of the flowers. Enough to make the Queen's Gardens look like a fucking dumpster fire in comparison.
All well and good, but you are not achieving any of that while you are lying on the carpet.
Just leave him there.
Now, if you can lift your skinny ass and work with me. 1, 2, 3.
But I don't want to go to bed. The moon is so pretty tonight.
I should just let you sleep on the ground, Bratwurst.
Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty face from day to day. Come on, Mummy, wake up. I want to be in that play. Mummy, wake up. You promised that you'd help me practice my lines today. The auditions are tomorrow, so I have to practice.
Oh my god, baby Luke was a theater kid.
The last syllables of recorded time, and all our yesterdays have lighted fools. The way to Dusty.
No wonder he's so dramatic.
Mummy, are you...
I choke back a scream and wake up in a cold sweat. With my heart pounding in my ears, it takes a while to remember where I am. Sleeping in the suit. Unless he has different materialed suits for different occasions. They all look the same, but his sleeping one is made up of a nice, breathable silk. It's soft, so he can move comfortably while in bed. In the dark and cold of the room, one can't fault me for feeling ill at ease. It isn't as bright as the penthouse, and the renovations did little to change how old it feels. We've been here for less than a week, and it'll take a bit more time to adjust. It's hard to feel cozy, though, when I'm bloody freezing. Nudging the lump of fabric next to me, I sigh.
It's cold. Don't hug the sheets, Hannah.
She always did this, though it hardly bothers me. Growing up, I was lucky to have something to use as a mattress. I'm not the one who grew up accustomed to Egyptian cotton with a thread count of 800. Besides, the warmth that Hannah exuded on her own is usually enough to keep me sleeping through the night. The temperature tonight must be something else with how chilly it is right now. I must be considerate, after all the poor dear is ill, though I loathe to think about what had just transpired.
Don't make me pull those sheets off you. Oh, that blanket is large enough to cover an elephant. You need to share.
It takes a
What
while.
was that, honey? Apologies. I'm just in the loo, so if you can give me a moment.
Oh no! There's no sign that they'll be moving where they lie. With care, I go for a knife hidden under the side of my bed. It would be foolish of me to instigate anything while I'm unarmed, after all. You just keep a regular-ass kitchen knife? You got the money, get like an actual, like, good knife, not the kitchen knife. Come on! To pull back the covers would be a more difficult affair, because reaching out to uncover who is underneath, I have to prepare for anything and assume the worst. If I so much as see the nozzle of a gun, there's going to be a murder tonight. I know they say not to bring a knife to a gunfight, but I think I can sink a blade in his liver faster than he can point and aim. I see the rise and fall of the sheets, though it could easily be mistaken as the fault of the breeze. I hear their breathing. A great sense of foreboding comes over me, making me hesitate with my plan. I should just get Hannah and myself out of here and not look back and let security handle it. That's what they're there for. Or maybe I should just man up. There's no way I'm risking the chance that inaction will put Hannah in danger. But what's the worst that could happen, right? I've no reason to be afraid. There's no boogeyman under the bed, no monster in my closet. If anything, these things should be afraid of me. Right. Right? I grab a fistful of sheets and throw them aside. Spooky, scary, I see her face. Nothing. Nothing but a bunch of pillows stare back at me. Must be my imagination. I'd rather not think I'm going mad. It could very well be the stress getting to me, all this drama with Hannah. I've been doing well all these years, all things considered. I guess I do have a breaking point. But still, the world goes on even if one cannot, and I must go along with it. I suppose a day off or two tomorrow wouldn't hurt. Rest, aside from a few hours of sleep, will be welcome more than. But I can't shake off the unease. I dare say that I feel afraid, irrationally so, that something will come creeping and crawling from under the bed, even as I lay back down and close my eyes. Okay, we're kind of going through this pretty quickly. It said October 30th, right? So yeah, we're going real quick. The odd dreams don't linger, thankfully. But with the morning comes another disturbance, both too loud and too sharp for my taste. That is the loudest doorbell. I have very fine taste. When the piercing rings of a doorbell reaches even the bedroom, I'm very much inclined to think the person who built this place lacks any sense of it. Perhaps the only thing good in this is that the ruckus has chased away the needling guilt from last night's commotion, if only temporarily. Still, it's bloody annoying distraction. I can tell already that it's going to be a long day. It hasn't even started. Before the racket even lasts another minute, I'm peeling myself off the bed and heading straight for the main door. There will be a murder today if this doesn't let up. How quaint. It seems everything in this blasted universe is intent on getting on my nerves as of late.
God and Bennett! Only a Nancy would knock at such an ungodly hour!
In the first place, I shouldn't be the one doing this. This is why I hired a valet, for fuck's
Where's
sake.
that damn butler when I need him?
I'll be honest, if only for today. With the mansion this quiet at this hour of the morning, it's easy to believe those little ghost stories might be real. But the only horror here is how long Hannah's patience with me will last after the incident at the party. Neither the deafening silence nor the biting chill spreading across every room in the place. There's no place for fear when another set of problems already burns that fuel. So I wait for another second. When no butler still answers my call, I simply yank the doors open myself, perhaps with more force than needed. And maybe it should be appropriately there, considering the person on the other side and the hour he dared appear on my doorstep. Even someone with half a brain knows not to disturb anyone this early. Brief confusion quickly gives way to anger, and before the bloody photographer can get even a word in, I'm hurling venom at him. It's less than he deserves, really. Hannah will disapprove, scold me for treating the man with such disrespect, if she hears me right now. She seems fond of him after all, treats him like a friend she's known for years. But she's not here, isn't she? What she doesn't know.
Again! It's bloody 6 in the morning! What the hell is it now?
Listen, sir, I know this is not a good time.
Oh, it's not a good time! Did you even check the clock before coming here? I bet you didn't!
This is my home. My rules also apply to this place as much as Hannah's do. As simple as that.
Unlike you, the ones living in this house need to sleep.
It just so happens it's also a person I will never take a liking to, no need for remorse.
Come back when people are actually awake, or I'll call security on you.
He continues shouting even as I slam the door in his face. Some nonsense about the news lately, though I don't understand most of it. However, with the closed door muffling the better part of it and with no ears to listen, his tirade doesn't last too long. Eventually he leaves and silence once again fills the room, as it should. In hindsight, maybe I should also call for psychiatric services. He certainly sounds mental just screaming like that. A suspicious man like him left roaming the immediate grounds, nothing good can come of it. But if his presence will indeed bring a problem, a sign of bad things to come, I'll probably know soon enough. Worst comes to worst, Shrockin will take care of it if need be. It's what I'm paying him for. In the meantime, the bigger problem at hand, a hangover. Maybe I'll have some absinthe to temper it, dog hairs, or some wine to help get me back to sleep. Still early, 1 glass won't hurt. Or 2. Whatever the case, I need to think, wherever that will lead me to. It's nothing. Everything leads to nothing. Except for this pounding headache, as if my mind will burst at any time, and leak out of my ears, my vision swims in and out of view. My stomach threatens rebellion with plans of making me throw up what little food I've taken in, with how my mouth feels, like it's filled with cotton. One would think that the fact that I'm hungover would make me the grumpiest person in the room. But as it is, my eyes move over to Hannah, who's stirring sugar into her tea and scowling down at it, all the while as if it has just murdered a baby in front of her. I've half the mind to bemoan my current state and make a fool of myself just to make her smile. And I'm rather good at bemoaning. Not that I would admit that. Why am I already adopting the posture of a whiny teenager as I speak, slouched forward with my cheek on the table?
Oh, I'm dying! Oh, God, I'm dying! Hannah? Johannes, call an ambulance, please! Let it be known that I leave all my belongings to Hannah right near Evans. Everything but 30,000 quid. But oh, I see a bright light. I see a farm. Mother dearest, is that you? Little Lucille is on his way home. I'm so sorry, but I must leave you, Hannah. Cover my face. Your eyes dazzle. I die young.
That much I can manage through the hangover, a thing entirely my fault considering I've drunk twice the night before. Another thing I will never admit. Really, it's a miracle I haven't incurred alcohol poisoning yet.
Oh, stop being so melodramatic, Luke. Besides, you never lived in a farm. You hate farms. We are not bringing you to the hospital for a hangover. Really. One would think you'd be used to it by now with how stubborn you are about your drinks. Dare I ask what the 30,000 quid is for, though?
He pulls a small smile from her for a moment, but the pinched look on her face returns quickly
He
enough.
lost a bet with Robert and Elise after a night of drinking at the Crawl. 10,000 each. And another 10 to me.
The sneer that makes its way on my face doesn't hold as much heat as it usually does. It's just a bit of friendly ribbing. Though I still wish she wouldn't tattle. Of course, it was my fault for mentioning the money. It wasn't like anyone will notice 30 grand missing from millions, though. That's how much I spend on a normal
Oh,
weekend.
must you be such a teacher's pet? I told you not to talk about it.
I'm having second thoughts about moving to the penthouse. If this is what you do when I'm not looking.
I've almost forgotten about that little arrangement, too. Shame. Hopefully that's the reason why she's so intent on glaring at the table until its varnish peels off. The alternative would be
It
sobering.
was that one time. I'm not a child in need of minding or mother hens. As much as I'd love for you to stay, you said you need some time to yourself. Don't let the fact that I lost a bet once make you think I have to be supervised.
It wasn't. I'm just worried about you, Luke. I'd be less so if you actually sat up.
Why are you worried about me? I'm more concerned about what your doctor told you. How did the house call go?
I didn't want to intrude on her privacy when the doctor arrived. A ridiculous sentiment considering I'm still her husband. But it wasn't like I could have done any good being there, what with nursing a hangover and all. However, a part of me feared what would be said, not to mention I trust that Hannah would tell me if it's something serious. Of course, it probably is something bad, and I'd be a fool to hope otherwise. I found her having a seizure for God's sake. I should have rushed her to the hospital as soon as she awoke, but it was her insistence that kept me at bay. A cup of tea finds itself in my hands, an attempt to appease me, no doubt. But I don't bother to drink, let alone look up. If anything, I just press my forehead on the table to hide the childish pout on my lips. Not that this is any better.
It was fine. The physician took some of my blood, and he scheduled me for a few lab tests tomorrow morning. I've already called for a driver and attendant to accompany me, so there's no need for you to worry.
And what? You'll just be leaving me behind then? And I don't think you should be going anywhere alone.
You hate hospitals even more than you hate farms, Luke. And Kylie's coming for your play date tomorrow, remember? Relax. I'm taking Johannes with me if it makes you feel better.
Herr Dr. Hobbs asked that I keep her under observation for the time being. Naturally, I'll be reporting my findings at the hospital.
Sitting up, I run a finger over the rim of my teacup and mull it over. I do hate the bloody place. I thought hiring Shrocken would have been enough for me to avoid the place. Apparently not. Bloody doctors and bloody sick people. I don't want to catch anything contagious. Can't even tell crying people to shut up if they get too annoying. Respecting their grief my arse. Say for a life and death situation, I'd rather avoid the mass graveyard that hid beneath the sterile air and white
I
tiles.
guess you two can go without me. But I can't believe how naturally you two conspire behind my back. Don't expect my help if those bloody doctors bleed you two dry. Vampires, every single one of them. Not as bad as lawyers and politicians, but close enough. You do know Carly will be upset when she finds out you're not here tomorrow. Again.
She'll be happy enough to spend time with her fairy godfather, I'm sure. You're a good role model for her, despite your whining.
No matter how many times Hannah claims that whining is unbecoming of me, I never listen. It's not like anyone that matters is here to judge. Well, it's not like anyone else actually matters. I whine if I bloody well want to, and I'll be no lesser because of it. Of course, I will not tolerate another person's whining. Except perhaps for Hannah, but she hardly ever does that. Even right now I can see a look of pain pass on her face, and her hand goes to her stomach. Yet she keeps quiet, not bringing it up or complaining. What should I do? I know the reason, and calling for an ambulance is a little much. But even if I didn't know the reason, it is still kind of a little much. So.
Are you alright? Should we be concerned? Maybe we should bring you to the hospital now.
I just feel a little queasy, that's all. A bit more tea in me, maybe some more sleep, and I'll be right as rain.
I spent a lot of time around people who lie for a living, and I can't help but feel that there's more to it than just that. Maybe it is just as she says, and I'm overthinking it. But I trust Hannah will fess up before things can get any worse. She's never really lied to me before, nothing big at
If
least.
you're sure, I'm just worried. You'll tell me if anything is wrong, right? You do know you can still trust me. That I do still care about you?
I know that. I'm just going to be moving out soon. Even if it is for a short while, you won't always be there for me.
Did you finish packing before you... I understand if you haven't, and I won't blame you if you've changed your mind after what happened. You can stay until you feel better.
I'm still moving. It isn't like you can't visit to check up on me. Although that does somewhat defeat the point. Luke, I'm a big girl. I'm going to get a checkup tomorrow, take whatever pills they tell me to get, and get over it. You really don't need to worry. I'm fine.
Oh, I do so hate those words. I hide my scowl by taking a sip of tea, fighting off the urge to hurl the cup at the wall. I'm fine, she says, a lie. Apparently the sour disposition I have, when not entirely born from my hangover, is still obvious. Without saying a word, Hannah puts her hand on mine and squeezes it tight. Her hands are cold and clammy, her grip is weak. I can see the small tremors that run along her shoulders and the paleness of her cheeks. She has yet to recover from what happened to her. She's not fine. And I'm not either.
Fine. I don't need to like it, but fine.
I don't think either of us really like it. But I do think it is for the best.
Perhaps we should bring you back to bed. The sooner you are off your feet, the better.
Is that some sort of roundabout way of saying that you want to sweep me off my feet and take me to bed? This isn't our honeymoon. I need rest, mister.
I'm aware that this is the farthest thing from our honeymoon. This isn't how things are supposed to be. Anna isn't supposed to leave. I'm not supposed to let her. And if she ever did leave, it's supposed to be on my terms. Everything is going wrong. But I respect her enough to let her have her space, as she so puts it. If divorce is brought up, however, well, that's another matter entirely.
Really now, you shouldn't have gotten up in the first place. Breakfast in bed exists for a reason. Come on then, back to bed you go.
Are you going to carry me to bed then?
You're far too heavy for that. Johannes could carry you, if you'd like.
Can you blame me if I enjoy food too much? I can walk, thank you very much.
I don't say a word as she clutches my arm to steady herself. There's no protest as she uses me as a crutch while going up the stairs. But that's as far as I go. Judging by the light blush on Hannah's face, she's gotten self-conscious about it too.
Look after her, and you stay in bed. I just need to go out.
I'll have plenty of time to be lonely in the mansion by myself when Hannah moves out. But now I can go and stretch my legs, fresh air, all that. Breathe. Grey skies loom over on the horizon, though the sun fights for every precious minute it gets to stay. It'll rain again soon, with the wind bringing along the gloomy clouds normal to Luxbourne. Until then, it doesn't hurt to be out here for fresh air and sunshine. I walk to the gardens, what little of it there is at the moment anyway, and kneel by the daffodils. These were the first to be brought here and planted on my request, and if nothing else, they brought in a sense of peace. They were Mother's favourites. Closing my eyes, I lift my chin up to welcome the light that shines upon me. And for a minute, I can imagine myself as one of the flowers, peaceful, blooming, and all too happy to stand in its warmth. Life would be much easier if we were all like flowers, wouldn't it? But I didn't step out here to get all philosophical. I have problems much more practical than figuring out the meaning of life, after all. Too many things have gone on these past few days, and I want to forget about them, even for just a moment.
It's almost all saints, isn't it? To think I've almost forgotten.
I speak the words absent-mindedly. The date means nothing to me, as I never worship the religion or have any graves to visit. After all, Mother was never given a proper burial. But it's a date, as good as any for me to grieve. Otherwise, I would have done so every single day, crippling myself and shutting everyone else out. I can remember how the flames licked at her flesh and how it consumed her body until there was nothing left but ash. I stood there watching with the operator and a social service worker, though I could have been alone for all I cared. I felt alone. It was the most that could be done. No one would attend the funeral of a dead prostitute, let alone pay for it. All that is left of her, proof that she had lived, is her name written in the ledger of Luxbourne Cemetery, a lighter in me. Pulling out the lighter from my jacket, I can't stop myself from flicking it open to stare at the flame and to run my thumb over her name. All in all, it isn't much, but it's something. And it'll be wrong of me not to make something of myself when she would have given everything to make sure I can become anything I want
Feels
to
like
be.
I'm stuck in a nightmare right now. What I would give to have you here by my side, Mother dear. To see you smiling at me. Alive and as beautiful as ever. I'm afraid I'm starting to forget what your face looks like. I've already forgotten the shade of your hair.
This is making me feel bad that I'm giving him such an annoying voice. Eleanor Chandler was a wonderful woman, though not everyone would have agreed. Not everyone had seen past her occupation, past her vices and her illnesses. All they saw was a poor woman who sold her body to make ends meet, and had a bastard son because of it. They didn't see the mother who worked hard to put food on the table for me, the woman who gave and gave and gave to me while expecting nothing in return. She taught me the merits of hard work, but though I loved it so, I worked hard for myself. I would not be so foolish, so selfish towards people who would never give back. Did I say selfish or selfless? I learned that from father, who plucked me out of an orphanage for his own selfish gain. I pocket the lighter before I can feel the urge to actually set anything ablaze. Considering my close proximity to the flowers, they would be the most likely victim of arson. Just the thought itself is blasphemous. Nevertheless, that doesn't save them from being picked. Just enough to make a bouquet of the things in honor of Eleanor.
Would you be proud of me if you saw me now, Mother? Maybe. You're always so forgiving. No matter what trouble I got into, more than I deserved. Especially now.
It's been a while since I've talked to Mother like this. I've been thinking of both my dear parents far too much as of late, when I shouldn't. I have a future to look forward to and the present to take care of. These memories of the past give me nothing but grief. The life of Lucille Mitchell Chandler should be nothing but a footnote in Luke Wright's non-existent autobiography. It's because of Hannah, isn't it? I worry that she is all too much like Mother, that it scares me, and the thought that I'm turning into my father is even more so. But even if history is so set to repeat itself, I'm not a child anymore. Content to sit aside, unable to do anything to help, and too inexperienced to think that the worst wouldn't happen. I have money to buy the best medicines and doctors if need be. She'll get better. She has to. And once we get over this little bump in the road, I can stop worrying. All will be right with the world. Unfortunately, my time alone is cut short, though.
I think those flowers look beautiful, my lord.
Who the fuck is that?
The parlor, the room where the lady stays for her tea, it could certainly use some.
The voice is not familiar, though I'm not really one to remember such things. Going with her attire, I could say that she's one of the housekeepers. Oh no! His whole thing is she's just like normal for him and he's talking to a ghost? Strange, considering I've seen all of the staff but Johannes away. And a face as pretty as it is unfamiliar to me. It would be a lie if I said it didn't set me on edge. Most would say that I cared little for my employees. That isn't entirely untrue. However, I'd like to think I know the people who work for me, especially those who would roam my home, even if it's just a face and a name. Besides, I would remember a beauty such as her. So who is this? If she is someone impersonating a household staff to get in, she's doing a bad job of it.
Didn't you get the memo? Are you new? Today is a day off. You aren't supposed to be here.
I expect poor excuses and apologies the likes of her often give, but she merely smiles.
Oh, no. I've been a servant here since you first came.
And I see no signs of lying nor hear it in her words, yet they can't be true. But I find that I feel like I can relax. She has that sort of smile that makes one's kindness shine through without words or action. It reaches her eyes, filling them with a strange sort of mirth, as if she just thought of something very funny. Perhaps had it been any other person, I would have interpreted it as a deceitful grin. But the curl of her lips and the shine of her eyes are too soft to hold any malice. She takes my silence as a sign that she can continue, and it's not like I feel any urgency to stop her. I'm not really in the mood for company, but I'm not adverse to it at the moment either. Entertaining a beauty like her even for a little while wouldn't hurt. It helps that she proves easy to listen to despite how oddly she speaks.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I shouldn't have bothered you. Look at me, talking to the master of the house without even asking for permission. What will the others think? If you'll excuse me, I'll just...
I haven't driven you away yet, have I? And it's your day off. I don't see why we can't chat a bit.
Of course. If that is what you wish. As long as it does not get you into trouble with the lady. To even take time for someone as lowly as me. No wonder that everyone under the mansion's employ is so fond of you. Though it should have no longer been a surprise to me. You have always been such a kind and loving lord.
My first thought would have been like, why is she like role-playing with me right now? It's getting kind of weird. I have to stop myself from calling her out on her shite. It's almost as if she's talking about an entirely different man. No matter how big my ego gets, I know for a fact that I'm hardly in the running for Best Boss of the Year award. The only reason that most of my staff stay is because of the decent compensation. I'm not cheap. But if she wants to lay it on thick, I'll allow it. You wouldn't want a beautiful woman complimenting them.
I'm sure she'll be fine with this. We are just talking after all. Unless you had other things on your mind when you approached me.
The words leave my mouth before I even realize what I've said. I panic a bit. Though I can get away with picking up women out in this city, sometimes even out of the country, I've always taken care not to do so in my home or in my businesses. Not when it will be so easy for Hana to find out about my infidelity through these channels. Though seriously, I still don't see what the big deal about it is. I just have an itch I need to scratch.
I know it must be amusing to see a girl flustered for a man of your stature. But please don't say such things, my lord. I saw you alone and simply thought you could use some company.
Thankfully, and I do count my lucky stars, it seems the woman takes it as a joke rather than the casual path it was intended to be.
So how are you liking your work around the mansion? The place is wonderful, but I imagine the upkeep is ungodly with all the rooms and whatnot. I don't even want to think about how many people are on the staff roster.
Work is work, my lord. It is a way of living. A purpose from day to day. It is certainly far better than doing nothing or having no food to eat. The house itself is also beautiful. There's no lack of things to look at. I'm sure you've seen those books in the study. I can't read any of them yet, but if given the chance, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be thinking of those things. Especially when the rains, they might bring more work to us soon. It will definitely be much more difficult when it returns. Idling about is the least I should be doing.
I guess you can put it that way if you want to be brutally honest about the whole thing. And the rain shouldn't be a problem. Hopefully. Maybe.
If a little dreary, at least she doesn't beat around the bush. I like the honesty. Many would bemoan the status as a household staff, as a janitor or other menial role, and believe themselves to be for greater things. And I would not begrudge the idea that one can always get better. But one shouldn't be so discontent with what they have
the rain
either.
Is something I simply must get accustomed to, if I am to live here. I've not spent long in this place after all, but I have been told that it has rained in this nation since a mother's time, and their mother's time. There is little we can do about it. I am just glad to have time in the sun, even for a short while.
Isn't that the truth? Really, these sunny days have been welcome, though I can't imagine they'll last for long. Sometimes I just want to pack my things and leave for somewhere like, say, the Bahamas or whatnot. Get some sun and surf.
But certainly, you will return for us, won't you? This is your home, after all. Your people, they won't be pleased if the master of the house leaves.
Of course, I can't very well leave my businesses hanging here, can I? I just wish I could actually trust people enough to go on vacation without taking work with me. I've also got to get back here if I ever want proper meals. A proper pudding is something you'll never find out there.
The woman nods in understanding, and I must say that she makes for a fine listening ear. But what she says next gives me pause, whether she meant for me to hear it or
And
not.
good tea. From what the cook has been telling me, I've yet learned how to prepare one. Perhaps once I do, it would endear the lady of the house to me. I never expected her to be so unkind after what she did for me. Though it's only if one catches her in a foul mood. I wish I knew how to avoid her anger.
I highly doubt she means Hana. That woman rarely has a mean bone in her body, and when she actually is nasty towards someone else, it's usually deserving enough. Much like when with that Rochelle woman. Hell, she even tolerates Harvey for me, even if she did admit that she doesn't quite like the man. She must mean the head housemaid, right? I have to laugh at that. Not that I have room to speak. I don't deal with her myself anymore, though even Johannes has a few choice words about the head hag. She's just been under the right employ when she was also head housemaid for my father. And if anyone's going to not get along with someone, it'd be that crotchety old woman. I don't even remember her name. But the woman had been this strict upstart bitch, who took one look at me and a master's bastard son and turned her nose up, as if she were better by mere consequence of birth. Then she absolutely loathed my very existence. Perhaps the rumors had been true. She had a miscarriage while bearing another one of my dearest father's children, and she saw me as an obstacle to her being granted a better standing in life. I remember that much, at least. The only reason I haven't sacked her yet is because of her competence. Also because working under my household makes her absolutely miserable. Her resignation made impossible by her pride.
Nobody really gets along with that woman. I think everyone just tolerates her because of how old she is. I mean, not to be rude or awful or anything, but she's at the age where she'll be pushing daisies soon enough.
Is she? Really, my lord? I'm sure the lady is much younger than that.
I think the thought of tormenting the young and beautiful gives her reason to live.
It does seem that way. Though I feel sorry for her. One's life should not be wasted away on hatred and anger. It is never good for the heart or the head to always carry ill thoughts. But at the least, you are here for us. We are certainly so lucky to have a lord like you. The lady even more so. The gods smile down on her. Though, if I may be honest, she is to be envied.
Even when I have my suspicions about her, she's just so easy to talk with that I've forgotten. He's being seduced. She's using her ghost magic on him to make sure he doesn't realize that the way she talks is super weird. I don't know who she is, and if she's actually one of the household staff, that would explain why she would so easily give absolutely wrong statements about my character. Though, if she is here for malicious reasons, she would have done more than do small talk with me by now, wouldn't she? I have so many questions. Perhaps curiosity will kill this
It's
cat.
strange that I've never seen you before. What's your name?
You do not remember?
I don't believe you've mentioned it, or am I missing something?
You still cannot comprehend it. Can you, my lord?
Miranda chips away at the good mood I'm starting to get into. I have every right to be angry at the cryptic response. She threatens insubordination with her very presence alone. But instead of hurling vitriol at the woman, I take a deep breath. I do not want my mood ruined further than it already is, not right now, when I can let my temper take its course another
Whatever
time.
your name is, and no matter how long you've been working for us, that does not change the fact that you shouldn't be here. I'll call you a cab to bring you to the city if you want.
Shouldn't I? What if I do not wish to leave? I merely desire to stay by your side and serve. Is that such a deplorable thing?
Her gaze sends chills down my spine. It's too easy to see the devotion, the obsession in her eyes. Not the good sort either, as her scrutiny makes me feel like I'm laid bare. The awfulness of her presence is all the more palpable with the feeling of bugs crawling on my skin and the silence that makes it seem as if the world has stopped. Any friendly atmosphere we might have had going for us is completely forgotten. Danger. A small part in the back of my mind screams, the part that has kept me alive all these years. And in hindsight, I'd be stupid not to take heed of it. But I've grown arrogant, complacent, and content to hide behind wealth and power.
Yes, it's a deplorable thing, as you said, because I'd like to be alone now. Thank you very much. If you didn't want the day off, you should have reported to your superior. This is utterly unprofessional of you, and I shall be issuing complaints. In fact, if you know it's good for you, you should start looking for another employer.
It's at my threat that the smile on her face turns tight.
I see. It escapes you still. This is unfortunate. How despairing that this misery must go on. But maybe, if you come with me, I can help you. I can...
When she reaches out for me, I recoil with a hiss.
How dare you lay your filthy hands on me without my permission?
I'm picturing him actually hissing, like, don't touch me!
I am not going anywhere with you. Now step back and walk away before I have you forcibly removed.
Oh shit! As if a switch had been flipped, the woman's expression turns horrific, although that may very well be the understatement of the century. She, herself, turns horrific. Her presence is suffocating, bearing down on me. I'm rooted on the spot through no fault of my own as my fear paralyzes.
You are too much like that vile woman, poisoned by her rotten influence and her filthy words. But that can be remedied now that you're here. Oh, how we have waited to welcome you home.
Who's we?
Come, my lord. The house beckons.
When her fingers grasp the back of my coat, I finally find it in me to break off into a run. I can still feel her eyes on me as I run back to the house, but I refuse to acknowledge it, let alone look back. All I need is to get away from her and to make sure she stays away. If that means acting like a coward and seeking out company to keep me safe, nobody can tell me to do otherwise. Bravery isn't something to be lauded if it comes along with stupidity. It must have been a sight to see the usually composed and reserved Luke Wright bursting through the doors. Not that I have much of an audience unless there are other staff members who's chosen to disregard my orders for them to leave. Really, I still doubt the woman is one of the staff. Mustering up the courage, I look back through the windows to see if she followed me. She's gone. But I don't take any chances putting as much distance as I can between us. It's still October 30th. Stopping to catch my breath, Johannes' sudden appearance nearly makes me jump out of my skin.
Don't fucking do that, you son of a bitch! If I had a gun, I would have shot you!
If I had any love left for my mutter, I'd take offense. But what happened to you? You look like you've seen a ghost.
Oh, if only it were such a delusion. No, you don't want that. But I can still feel her sharp nails digging into my back. The feeling was too real for it to have been a ghost.
There was his housekeeper. I think, I'm not sure. In the gardens. She was acting odd and I thought to remove myself from the scene.
Strange. I made sure the rest of the staff had left and that the house was empty, as you requested. Describe this woman.
She had pale skin, dark eyes, and long dark hair. She wouldn't give me her name.
I half expect a name from him. The man knows the staff better than I do, after all. But instead of an answer, he grows quiet. I'm pretty sure that is not a good thing. I'm even more worried when the other man looks me over. I have to protest when he pulls back my collar.
What in the bloody hell are you doing?
Checking for marks. Needle marks, to be exact. We don't have anyone like that among the staff. You could have easily been kidnapped.
A cold feeling settles itself over me at the thought. I've long established my power over the more unsavory characters in Luxbourne, or I thought I did. And the most harm I thought that could come to me would be slander, robbery, or incarceration. Kidnapping? An attempt on my own person? I've forgotten that I'm as human, as mortal as any other man despite my wealth and
Fortunately,
status.
you look unharmed. But I advise that you be accompanied by trusted individuals at all times from now on. If not me, an assigned guard. I'll be informing them of this soon, as they return from their day in the city.
Already I can feel the energy leave me at the realization of what could have been.
All right. Yes, I suppose we should do that. But I think I'd like to call it a day. I should be safe in bed, yes?
I'll stand guard outside for the night. The madam has been inquiring about you, by the way.
A god, any other threat in here alone would be enough to make me feel safe. But what I saw, whatever it is I saw, would one man be
That's
enough?
all well and good, but there's something else. That housekeeper, she...
Luke, you're home. I was worried about you.
The grin that I can muster is probably lopsided. Forced as I snap my mouth shut to keep myself blabbering about witches and monsters. Because here I am standing in the hallway, dirt on my pant legs and sweat dotting my forehead. A far cry from my usual pristine condition. I don't want to worry, Hannah.
What
Cough.
happened to you? You look like you wrestled in the mud and moss, dear. And those flowers. Were you gardening?
What? Oh, these. I didn't realize I still had them.
I really didn't. But there they are, still in my grip, the daffodils I had taken from the garden. Even in the wake of my flight, I had refused to let go of them whether I was conscious of it or
Shall
not.
I put them in a vase?
Should I... Why? This is making me suspicious. Do I want to toss them? Would it be cheating if I looked up what daffodils mean? I'm looking it up. No one can stop me. Like, I want to think like, ooh, this is mama's flowers, and they will protect me. Like, that's the reason why I still had them, because mama was there. Looking down at me from heaven. Keeping that ghost bitch away from me. So, I should give these to Hannah. But then, at the same time, my brain is like, I was near the ghost, everything is tainted, I'm throwing this suit away, I feel disgusted, I need a hot shower. I'm gonna give it to Hannah. Perhaps I did it to save face, or maybe a small part of me really had planned to take them for her. But, like a young man presenting flowers to a Valentine's, I awkwardly thrust a bouquet in Hannah's
They're for
direction.
you.
These are lovely, thank you. But aren't these?
The surprise is to be expected, and the open-ended question needs a little interpretation. I've never given her daffodils before, especially not from ones I considered
They're
mine.
for you. Don't make me think that kneeling around in the dirt was a waste of my time.
It's not. It's not. Just... Are you feeling alright? I hope whatever I have isn't contagious.
I'm not sick, Hannah. I just got them for you. I thought they'd make you feel better, brighten up the room. I don't need my intentions questioned. The thank you was enough.
And I didn't mean to insinuate anything. But you're right. Thank you, truly, for these.
She takes them from me then, careful not to crush the stems. There's still uncertainty on her face which endears and annoys me in equal parts. But she does look lovely with them, the very picture of her something that should be immortalized in paint. They should be for Mother, but it doesn't matter
Why don't
anymore.
we turn in for the night? You must be exhausted with all that gardening.
What does a dead woman care for flowers? I didn't get any sleep, not a single wink. I was so busy jumping at every shadow and worrying about waking with a knife in my chest. Or not waking at all, even when Hannah wakes in spite of a mild fever, and goes downstairs for breakfast I stay in bed, thoughts of poisoned food running in my head. The rain that has started sometime during the night doesn't help the mood. Okay, maybe it helps just a little. The strange sunny weather has been nice and all, but for it to return as it should be feels like a good sign of things to come. Perhaps things will settle back to normal and the crazy drama that had gone on lately will die down. I would hate to be caught unawares in this rain. And with how it looks outside, it seems that the weather is making up for all the sunny days it's given us with a good old-fashioned downpour. The rhythmic pitter-patter of the rain fills the early morning silence with a steady beat. Thank goodness I don't have to be anywhere in a hurry today. I would hate to be caught unawares in this rain. With how it looks outside, it seems that the weather's making up for all the sunny days it has given us with a good old-fashioned downpour. It does little to let up within the quarter of an hour. However, a day beginning with a cloudburst like this, locals usually take it as an immediate sign. Lugsbourne's abysmal weather's back, likely for good. Dude, I miss the rain, even though, like, I also don't like being in it if I have to go anywhere. Like, I really miss weather that wasn't just normal or hot. In the last place I lived, we used to get cool fog. It was beautiful. Like, in high school, because we were up on a mountain, sometimes during the rainy season, I believe it should be, because that's usually when it gets cold. When the icy air comes down, we would get fog. So it would be the most fun walking to classes. Because you have the fog rolled in and you can't see jack shit on the road. I just miss it a lot. And I don't get that here. I think I just like the change of weather because it just makes it not feel like every day's the same. I hope they did a damn good job of fixing this place because I'd rather not have to deal with leaky roofs. Oh, yeah. I feel you on that one. I don't like the idea that the reality did a horrid patch job with the place. I get nightmares about leaky roofs. Hana technically paid millions for this place. It better live up to the price the realty company sold it for. Roof problems aside, she's going to be a definite downer about this. As well. She hates the rain, then again, who actually does? What sane person would like it when 9 out of 10 days consist of nothing but dark, drab, and grey skies and piss water pouring from the heavens? And she was just starting to enjoy the sunlight. I will have to get up and about eventually. That is a given, but I'm not too keen on seeing or talking to Hana before she leaves for the hospital. Or eventually in a few days' time this bloody house. Kylie won't like it if she comes here only to find me in a bad mood. Few would dare rouse me from bed. Being able to keep their jobs is incentive enough. I trust they realize that now is not a good time to force me into anything. Maybe I can just get an hour or two of sleep before Suarez drops his brat off to the mansion steps. If only. But as always, somebody has to be a buzzkill.
Are you really going to stay in bed all day?
What do you want?
You must have been really rattled by what happened yesterday. If you need to talk about it, I am quite qualified in that regard.
Are you a psychiatrist? Anyways, that wasn't my thought. My thought when I saw Johannes come in was, God, I wish I was your husband.
And you aren't even the slightest bit bothered. Truly, not even the slightest bit worried?
I was worried. But I realized that it's not my life in danger, is it? My worrying will not help matters. Neither will yours.
Loath as I am to admit it, he is right. Still, it's more frustrating when he doesn't give me time to concede his point.
I know you two aren't getting along.
Nosy
but
bugger.
You should at least see the madam off before we leave. Think of her as a business associate if you must. It would not do to part on bad terms.
It's far too early to deal with your nosiness.
That's none of his business, none of it. If he remembers this place, he'll drop it. I don't want to talk to Anna, not now, when I'm so high-strung and paranoid. This whole thing is a bloody mess with everything going off at once. I'm afraid that, with our troubles, I will misinterpret anything she might say or do. I'll just make the whole thing
Are
worse.
there any updates about the woman?
Being in the dark has me on edge. Information, any at all, may very well help me in calming down.
I've already briefed security about her, and more from the agency will be arriving tonight. But they haven't seen anyone fitting the description.
So you have nothing then? Fat lot of use you guys are. What do I even pay you for? Do me a favor. There's the door. Don't let it hit you on your way out.
Well, there is something. It's about McCulloch.
Can anyone blame me if I show the tiniest bit of interest? She's still not done with the house, and she's a nice enough woman. Plans to go back to sleep
I
were
called
gone.
her secretary about taking the day off. He hasn't heard from her over the weekend.
She's probably passed out after enjoying a pint or 2 or 10 in a bar somewhere. She's an adult. It was the weekend. She's allowed to disappear and not think about work. Fuck. I wish I was passed out after a night of drinking. He does know that mobiles are a thing.
That's all well and good, but she's not answering her mobile either. Mr. Parker will be filling a missing persons case with the police if she doesn't turn up today.
Certainly someone must know where she is. Tabs are kept without fail on people who come to work with me. Background checks and constant surveillances until they finish their contracts with the rights. Some would say that it's all a bit over the top. But I can't be too safe. Too many want me
What
dead.
about one of ours? Has anyone seen her? She's pretty hard to miss with how tall the woman is.
The last anyone has seen of her was here, the morning of the party.
That was the morning?
Your housewarming party.
That isn't good news.
It wouldn't do for the police to hear of this and to suspect.
It's of little import that I can easily prove my innocence. It's all a matter of principle. Because even the accusation of misdemeanor should not stain my reputation, although maybe it is a bit too late to hope for a squeaky clean one. Besides, it'll be such a hassle to have police poking about the house looking for a body that doesn't exist.
Now, if we're done here, I'd like to go back to sleep and...
Ugh. Well, there goes any plans of grabbing some shut-eye. Rolling over on my stomach, I can only scream into my pillow.
Of course.
Luke is so dramatic. He's such a brat. It was only kind of sweet that he loves Hana, but he's still just the worst. He still has the infidelity thing going on. He's still not the greatest to her. Luke is so garbage, but I'd throw him I would throw him a piece of bread. Like he's a little animal that I'm feeding.
Ugh.
How'd she hear that?
Johannes, distract her.
Oh, look, it's time for me to go. Have fun with your little play date. So long, farewell, and auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.
No, Johannes, don't you turn away from me. Keep her busy for an hour. Come on!
I have to press my face against the pillow once more to suppress a groan. You just can't get loyal help anymore.
Hello there, little Fraulein. Your uncle is just upstairs and will be down in a moment. He is super excited to have you today. So I hope you're well rested and ready to play a lot.
That bastard. I'll be down in a sec, Munchkin. Let me just...
Change into a fresh shirt, brush my teeth, fix my hair, bemoan my very existence. Wish I was anywhere else in the world right now. Don't get me wrong, Kylie's a great kid, wonderful, better than most brats her age, but handling a tyke is the last thing I want on my agenda right now with this whole Hana business. Fortunately, I'm well versed in how the world works. I've long learned that the show must go on no matter what hurdles come in my way. So I set to preparing for the day. Running a comb through my hair is just divine and simply makes me feel more human. Bed hair is disgusting, though it isn't as bad now as it was when I was a child. With how expensive a trip to the barber's was, I often had to grow it out until Mother had the time to cut it for me. The curls and tangles were simply horrid. Why, I was even mistaken as a little girl because of that. It certainly didn't help that I was named Lucille. A freshly pressed shirt is enough to chase away the last signs of sleepiness. The feel of crisp and clean cloth in my hand is a clear marker to the start of the day. Smoothing down my suit and my hair with a sigh, I steel myself for the horrors. The horrors that come with taking care of a child.
Good morning to you, Luke.
Ugh. Speak of the devil, and she shall appear. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, Kylie grins up at me as soon as I open the bedroom door. She swings the backpack she's clutching, hitting my leg in a show of impatience and looking entirely unapologetic for it.
Just wake up. Don't tell me you forgot. It's our playdate today.
I doubt I'd forget. Kylie's visits are a frequent enough thing that they've found a way into my schedule. They're supposed to be visits to her godmother. But we can't pick who a child gets along with, so long as I'm not busy, her father can drop her off for the day. Which is all well and good for me if it makes Suarez focus on work I've given him. Besides, she's a bright child, tolerable. Kid's got a good head on her shoulders and can get pretty mature for her age at times. Of course, they have to thank me for that. The parents can take partial credit, but Hannah and I have been there for this kid since she was just a small babe. Why, I can still remember the first time I saw her. It was during her baptism. The only reason I was there was to accompany Hannah, who was to be named godmother. She was such a tiny thing, not even a year old, and swaddled in her mother's arm in white cloth. It was the first time I really saw an infant up close enough to hold one at least. It had been terrifying to be given a little child to carry after the whole water ceremony. I've never done so before that, to hold a tiny life in my arms. I could have just dropped her on her head and this little tyke before me would have stopped existing then and there. But the child just smiled at me, babbling nonsensical words as children do, and clinging to me even as I tried to hand her off to Hannah. She had thought it hilarious and adorable. My suit had been a mess and I was nearly an anxious wreck by the time I handed her back to her mother. Yet it was pleasant too.
Of course I didn't, you little rugrat. I just had to take care of something before you arrived.
Really? Well, I guess that's fine. As long as you told me for work like last time.
Really? Now why don't we go back down and have breakfast in the parlor?
I already ate at home. Papa made one of his tortilla de patatas. He wouldn't let me leave until I finished every bite.
Ah, the Suarez infamous tortilla de patatas. Those things are a hazard. You can probably use one to bludgeon someone into submission with how huge they are. It's a miracle Kylie can still be so energetic. I had trouble staying awake the first time I had one. Speaking of staying awake...
I need some coffee in me at the very least. But if you'd like, you can jump straight to dessert.
Yes! Dessert, please!
It's easy enough to manage Kylie with the promise of sweets, thankfully. The hard part is managing her before she gets the sweets, because I nearly have a heart attack when the kid races down the stairs. Just the thought of her slipping and breaking her neck is enough to make me rush down after her.
Slow down, the food isn't going anywhere.
The food is going somewhere. In my tummy.
Jesus fucking Christ. Children.
With a shake of my head, I usher Kylie towards the parlor and order a maid to bring food for us. Whatever the breakfast there is, along with a cup of coffee for me and an ice cream for Kylie. But I can't leave the kid alone for too long unless I want to let her turn the other room into a slaughter ground. True to my expectations, I've only left Kylie alone for a few minutes, but she's already made herself comfortable. The stuff from her backpack has been left scattered across the room, from coloring books and crayons to toys. Oops. Smack my chair against the table. She's well equipped to amuse herself with no trouble, though I can certainly breathe a little easier if she won't bring a doll along every time she visits. Narissa or Sissa is a creepy little bugger. Doesn't help when Kylie left a during one. Finding the thing at the bottom of the stairs staring up at me at 3 o'clock in the fucking morning is a memory that won't be leaving me anytime soon. Even now it stares at me from where it's seated. I'm wholly tempted to just throw the thing into the fireplace and banish it from whence it came. I can buy her a prettier doll, a better toy. I'll break it, find a way to get rid of it, if it wasn't for Hannah and if only Kylie isn't so attached to it. The thing is some antique doll she found for the brat's 6th birthday, one of a kind. My darling Hannah loves her so. And Kylie does try to be a good goddaughter, but she just can't keep her interest long with the wife. It's not something that Hannah does wrong on her part, she does try so very, very hard, so that she doesn't quite know how to handle children. She'd never been around other children when she was young, surrounded by protective adults who catered to her every whim and worried for her safety every minute. When she's unable to keep up with Kylie, her first instinct is to be strict. Impose rules on the child, treat her as if she is made of spun glass, like every movement might break her. I at least have some idea from being around street kids. I know the games they've played and how they think. I know that scrapes and skin knees are all part of childhood. Even with how I grew up, I had time to be a child and not some sheltered heiress. With Kylie, as behaved as she can be, with her toys and her books and arts, she has to use up all her energy somehow. To run around the playground and make a mess in the mud, or to even just fake wrestle for a short while, let her be a child when she wants, I'll say. If it becomes too much, just bribe her with sweets or ship her back to her papa. Problem solved. Unfortunately, Hannah isn't quite up for those sorts of things most of the time, thinking it'll spoil the child. It turns a whole play date awkward every time. Taking the last seat left, I pluck one of her coloring books from the table to see it filled with dinosaurs. Not exactly what I expect to see for a little girl, but it doesn't hurt anyone. If she wants to play with dolls and cars, or dolls with their cars, what do I care? She once put her doll's tutus on model cars even.
This is a new one. The last one you had was filled with horses, wasn't it?
Those were ponies, Tio. They're much cuter than horses. But we went to a dinosaur zoo, and it was awesome! Dinosaurs are my favorite.
I have no idea what that is, but it must be something. I'm only familiar with the T-Rex myself.
Yeah, they found, fossils of its claws. They're really long. They think the whole theory might be a bazillion meters tall, even bigger than a T-Rex. Cisa says it'll be big enough to eat all my classmates.
She only laughs as I scrunch up my nose and grimace.
Takako says you're making a really funny face.
Taka who?
Takako, a friend I made.
I have to stop and look around, expecting one of the help to be there. The child does have a way of befriending just about anyone as long as she puts her mind to it. Yet the two of us are completely alone. Thankfully, she only finds my disturbed look as another funny grown-up expression. That must be a lot more problematic than whether she plays with dolls or cars, though. Both the thoughts of Cisa giving Kylie ideas and one of said ideas being massacred by dinosaur. Something I probably need to bring up with her father aside from work. But beyond murderous dinosaurs, creepy dolls, and imaginary friends, I find no trouble with Kylie. She's as energetic and precocious as any tyke her age can be. She's an angel if she can get comfy and settled in after getting her sweets. We tuck into our waffles as soon as food is brought in. Oh, that looks good. Our waffles because she wanted her own plate to go with the ice cream as soon as she saw mine. A fresh plate of berries is brought in as well, which really goes great with the rest of this feast, as Kylie puts it. And if I indulge in the sweetness, I have a cup of black coffee to pair it off with. With our bellies full, Kylie grows content with just scribbling on a scrap of paper and calmly chatting about her week. She talks of her older brother Rowan and their parents, how they plan to go to the Bloxland in Berkshire for the winter holidays. She talks of Miss Pink, and I have to shift my legs to become comfortable once more, the memory of my initial meeting with her still fresh on my mind. She talks of the sad man in the park and of her new friend who likes to play hide-and-seek when she's not sniffling in the loo. When finally she finds nothing new to talk about, she goes back to her drawings. That'll change as soon as her stomach settles, of course, the calm before the storm. Because behaved as she is right now, I can feel the curiosity just radiating off of her. There's a restlessness buzzing under her skin and a question on the tip of her tongue, as they often are with children her age. But for now I can take this peace with no complaint for however long it stays. I have fun with the crayons as well at the child's insistence, even if I can't really draw. With Kylie using the black crayon that leaves me with the blue one, I absent-mindedly start to draw Puppy to the best of my abilities. It's as I attempt to give the doodle dogs another eye that Kylie breaks her silence.
Where did Tia go? I saw them leave when I got here. Tia didn't look so good.
I've been expecting a lot of different questions. The kid always has a whole bunch of them ready for me, but I can only sigh when she poses this particular one.
She's just going to the doctor's for a checkup.
And as kids go, there are follow-up
And
questions.
you didn't go with her?
Well, you were going to be here, sweetie, so I had to stay behind.
So she's all alone? At the hospital?
Oh, no, of course not. Tia has Johannes and her maid and a guard. She's got plenty of company.
Yeah, but you're not with her.
If I didn't know better, I'd say the kid is trying to make me feel guilty, though I don't know if the bitter taste in my mouth is that or something else entirely. I really don't have time to process what the emotion is as the brat opens her mouth again.
You should have gone with her to the hospital. Hospitals are scary, you know.
Exactly why I didn't go. I don't like hospitals, Kylie. That's all there is to it.
So you're not angry at Tia?
Why would I be angry at her? It isn't her fault she got sick.
I heard you and Tia are fighting. I heard that you might not be together anymore.
Have to stop her there. Sure, it's easy for people to jump to conclusions and presume that we might be fighting, no thanks to Rochelle. But it's not common knowledge that things have actually gone sour, and to put it in her terms, that we might not be together anymore.
Where did you hear this from?
I heard it from a nice maid lady. But that's still no excuse. Not when she's sick. She needs someone to hold her hand, and bring her soup, and make her drink medicine.
I'm livid. Livid that one of my employees might gossip, and to a child of all people. Who says such upsetting things to a child? But my anger dies out when Kylie starts to tear up. She holds it back in an effort to not seem so childish, I assume. Though I'm honestly confused as to why such news would upset her so.
Oh, no. Look, Kylie, there's no need to cry.
I'm not going to cry.
Are you sure? You've got no reason to cry. Even if Hannah and I won't be together anymore, you can still visit me and I can still visit you.
That's not the problem. Why don't you and Tia love each other anymore?
I still love her, Munchkin, and I'd like to think your Tia still does too.
Isn't that the truth? I love her, I'm just total shite at showing it. And a small part of me screams that I was not worthy to be her husband in the first place, no matter how hard I deny it. Perhaps in another time, another place, another me, I would have confessed that the whole world is nothing compared to her.
Why are you two fighting? You grown-ups are so stupid sometimes.
Why? Because I'm a prat, probably. Motioning for her to come closer, I wrap my arms around and rub her back in an attempt to comfort the child. Only when I feel her tears soak into my jacket that I realize that there might be something else to her worries. I've heard Suarez is not getting along too well with his wife as of late because of how busy he is with work. Really, I was wholly tempted to just brush a question off and say that it's a grown-up thing. I could content myself in pretending that this isn't happening. But it seems like she needs to hear this. That just makes it all the more painful to try and explain this because I have to explain it not only for Kylie but also for myself.
Sometimes people fall out of love. Or they think they've fallen out of love and need time apart. It's not necessarily a bad thing. They might be angry at each other, or they might feel sad. They need time for themselves to think about each other, to know if there is still love. Maybe they'll be back together again. Or maybe it's better for both of them to move on, instead of staying together and hurting each other, pretending they still love each other.
There's nothing final, but here we are, at a crossroad where the wrong step might end in heartbreak. Anna thinks we need some time apart, but we aren't done just yet.
But yes, grown-ups can be rather stupid.
You're still gonna be my friend, no matter what, Teal?
Of course, my life would be less exciting without a little brat like you running around and making a mess of it. And you better stay my friend, even when I get all old and wrinkly.
Kylie's shoulders shake in laughter as she pulls away and gives me a toothy grin.
Already old! But don't worry. When you die, I'll burn you and put you in a jar so I can keep you forever! Just like they did with Abuelo!
Oh god, Kylie's the scariest child. My thoughts come to a grinding halt at her words as she goes on as if she hasn't just said such an odd thing. Why, it almost seems like the tyke is looking forward to my funeral. As if there is no confused expression on my face, she pulls me back to our drawings, commenting on the state of my weird dog.
I think your puppy would look better magenta.
I don't think I can spend any more time with Kylie considering how high-strung I feel. And also that she's said two things that were absolutely horrifying. So is it a good thing that Suarez came for her as soon as I've called? Though it is earlier than the agreed-upon time, he voices no complaint. The bastard even has a look of relief as soon as they left. Or at least I interpret it as such from where I've stood by one of the windows, not bothering to step out and greet the man. No doubt he still doesn't trust me around his spawn. Well, he has every right to be suspicious of me. I am a dangerous man, after all. But to my syringe, that leaves me with the rest of the day with nothing to do. Well, aside from picking up the mess Kylie left scattered about in the parlour, to my immense relief, she remembered to take a doll home with her this time. But the same cannot be said of the crayons and papers littered here and there. First things first, are we gonna find the ghost drawing? I snatch my own doodle off the table and rip it into shreds, leaving no hope that it will see the light of day. The rest of the drawings, all Kylie's, remain unharmed as I collect the lot. Though they have been stacked neatly on the table before, they must have been blown about when I saw Kylie off. And there are plenty of them. From cats and cakes to colourful rainbows and gardens, the child managed to make a lot during her morning here. There's one more that I have to fish out of the fireplace where it landed. Expecting to see another one of Kylie's masterpieces, I am instead greeted with something a bit more concerning. Yup. There is me, and there's Kylie, the two of us side by side and smiling as our stick-figure selves stand in a nondescript field. That much I can ascertain without looking at the labels below the doodle's feet. I would have been like, yo, I think your kid needs to go to a psychiatrist. Please take this drawing, it's horrifying. But a third figure stands next to me in the drawing. A woman with her face hidden behind a curtain of black. Takako, the reading under her supplies.
Says you're making a really funny face.
Taka who?
Takako, a friend I made.
The hairs on the back of my neck stand on end, and I feel a chill go down my spine. A breath that isn't mine. That has me turning around expecting, hoping to see anyone, but nothing. And that's when I hear it. Laughter, sweet and merry laughter ringing from the ballroom. Thinking about it as my cheeks burning and my blood running hot, it's as if I'm being mocked. I don't know what's scarier, the laughter or the crying. As I stomp towards the door, I have to stop myself from shouting up a storm. I expect to see some of the help dallying about idle from their duties. Perhaps they thought they can slack off in their duties without the head butler around and with my preoccupation with Kylie. But they had another thing coming. But again, nothing. Nothing from what I can see with a cursory glance at the very least. I roam around looking for near impossible hiding places, and still I am alone. And I can still hear laughter, that accursed laughter, echoing about in the room, in my head.
Who's there? Show yourselves and show some respect to the master of the house!
Cold uneasiness settles in my stomach when no one answers. I stumble on my own 2 feet, feeling a wave of nausea come from nowhere. I have to put a hand on the wall to stay upright when the world shifts and pain explodes from behind my eyes. It takes every ounce of my self-control not to heave then and there. The only thing my pride allowed me to do then is to close my eyes and attempt to alleviate some of the pain. Vague, unfamiliar images, dare I say memories not mine, flash in my head, unbidden and unwelcome. Like a strong hammer strike to the head, threatening to crack my skull and split in two. Whatever emotions they hold are muted. I'm nothing but a spectator. Still, its weight feels palpable. Though it doesn't take long for those sensations to get into my head, through my eyes and my ears, and creep and buzz into the spaces between. Whispers and accusations fill every crevice of my head, ringing and echoing around a terrible case of tinnitus. They stare, gazes filled with judgment and disgust. Even before their beloved lady has spoken, she's already condemned.
This horrid woman! I beg the court for justice! Who knows what this devil's bride is capable of? She has already bewitched my love, my betrothed. I just cannot bear to think of what she has done to him after. Or what else she may do to our people if we let her live. Blood taints this woman's hands, and I deserve to be repaid in kind for that which she has taken from me.
There's nothing for her but death, and she knows this. Her silence says as much. One after the other they come at me, an unending flood that threatens to sweep me away from what feels like an eternity. each one a show of both the joy and suffering for those who have called this mansion their home. Each new scene is like a hammer to the head threatening to crack my skull and split it in two. I can feel every little emotion in the blurry images that present itself in my head. I feel a part of these like I've lived through them, though I know that is not possible. All their anger burns through me, that much is evident, but the pain more so. And above all of it are the whispers. Voices calling, luring, until one image emerges in vivid contrast with the others. When there's a shout of joy, my eyes snap open looking for the culprit. That's when the whole room just changes. Everything is the same, yet everything isn't. There are people everywhere laughing and dancing. I should be concerned about them, but my mind finds it easy to dismiss them as they fade in and out of nothingness. Instead, I find my concentration drawn to a man and a woman, though one can only call them a lord and lady going by their clothes. And oh, just see how happy the couple looks. Though the man's eyes are eerily blank like he's not all there, his face is familiar though. In fact, they both are, but I can't quite place why. The two make for a pretty picture as they dance in the center of the ballroom, even the phantom's crowd's attention stay on them. It reminds me so much of Hannah and I during the early days of our marriage, the honeymoon years they call it. We were happy then too, all smiles in her sunshine, even with the normal dreary weather. Younger, we had less to worry about, or at least thought that way. Wished we could go on that way, even with all that I did and had to do. But life has a way of catching up. There was work to be done. Although we had to stay the loving, perfect couple in public, I could not afford to look so weak. To appear tied down to someone else, to those who knew who I really am. I had to harden my heart when I have business, but it hadn't always been so easy to just switch that part of me on and off. I should be concerned about their intrusion too, ask what in bloody hell they're doing in my house, throwing a party as if they own the place. Ask myself how the fuck I didn't notice what was going on before when the parlor and foyer were both only a few doors away. There's a horrid feeling of envy, and though I have long accepted that I am a jealous person by nature, I have never felt such a strong feeling of envy as I have now. They were happy with each other, these people, but Hannah and I. Envy turned into anger. Anger for something I could not have. But I have the feeling that yelling and screaming at them won't do much of anything anyway. None of the others have given me notice. I realize that this might not even be real. It dawns on me that these two are the people from the paintings, the ones all over this mansion. Which makes sense. I don't think I'm imaginative enough to make all of this up on my own. This must be a dream, or a really horrible high. Just then I can feel eyes on me as I contemplate the absurdity of the situation, yet I find difficulty in trying to tear my eyes away from the two dancing. I manage, and I regret looking away. The woman from the garden stands beside me. I can hear her rattling breath, menacing and chilling. Everything in me screams to run, but something pins me to the spot as she just looks at me, watching and waiting. The clamor of their voices fill the ballroom. Although they say such welcoming words, I do not feel comforted by the madness I'm experiencing. Their joyous voices turn sinister and foreboding to my ears. A chorus of people that shouldn't exist, threaten to overwhelm me, drown me even as I stand on dry land. The music still plays as the phantom quartet continues while I stand here vulnerable and afraid, but the dance has already ended. And I'm afraid that I might just be tonight's entertainment. Attention is all well and good until bollocks like this go down. These phantom people watch me, thousands of eyes scrutinizing, though they cheer for my return. Cajole me to dance and join the merriment. There are eager hands all over, pulling me in every direction, but they do not move me enough to remove me from the woman's gaze.
Listen. Can you not hear them as they welcome you home? Your kind, our kind. You're one of us, my love. We are bonded by the blood we share.
If I thought the voices were overwhelming before, it is nothing compared to how they are now. The voices are loud, speaking in unison and echoing over on in the spaces of my head. They welcome me back as if I've always belonged, as if I were meant to be here in the first place. They call me all these titles and names that do not belong to me, and that man's face, the one with the empty eyes, flashes again before me. once fleetingly, like a new memory having burned itself in my mind. I have to struggle for air when I come back to myself after.
This isn't...
The welcomes turn into screams at my protests, pained and desperate pleas for my help, telling me that it is my duty to stay. Telling me that I belong among them, to them. Gentle touches turn near threatening, the warning scratches and the baring of teeth by predators before they truly maim someone. My mouth goes dry as I struggle to speak some sense in this hallucinatory madness, but I don't get the chance as I drown my voice.
Our lord, my prince.
At her words there is a compulsion to stay, though my heart races in my chest. The fear I should be experiencing refuses to register in my head. Mind and body war with each other, nearly tearing me in two.
You finally returned to us.
The compulsion to walk into her arms is strong. Whispers in my head tell me to go to her. They say that she is safety, she is home and heart.
We have been waiting for so long.
But repulsed at these thoughts, I wrench away and turn with a small gasp. Without hesitation, I start to make a run for it. I nearly falter when an angry shriek pierces the air, inhumane and monstrous. I don't dare look back, I just run. I don't care if this is a drug-induced hallucination or not. Just run. Out of the ballroom. And out of the parlor. It's only then that I bother to look back, hoping and praying to the God I scorn that it did not pursue me. I would have run all the way out of the mansion too if only someone didn't get in my way. I collide with a body much larger than mine and fall back to the ground, head spinning as I look up at the stained glass. Turning my head to the side replaces the colorful sight with a pair of shiny black shoes. Fatigue fills every inch of my being then, making me refuse to get up. Meanwhile, a familiar head of ginger hair looks down at me in bemusement.
You really must look where you're going if you insist on running about. Do tell, where is the fire?
Oh, thank God you're here.
I do hope you don't have a concussion. Can you count backwards from 15 to 1 for me?
Oh, fuck off, you wanker. Just help me up.
I do not think insulting me if you do have a concussion is a smart decision. But no, really. 15 to 1.
That woman, she was here. I told you to keep an eye out for her.
The other man offers an arm and pulls me up to my feet then. But before I can storm off and pull him into the ballroom, he anchors me down with one hand on my shoulder and the other touching the back of my head.
Bruising or bump. That still does not mean that you don't have a concussion. If you are too lazy to count backwards, can you tell me your full name? Where are you currently?
We don't have... Lucille Mitchell Wright. And this is the Ermengarde bloody fucking foyer. But we don't have time for this.
You must make and have the time to make sure you are not broken in the head. I have already sent security to scour the whole house when I saw you running out of the parlor, Dummkopf. If the woman is here, they will have her. You will only be slowing them down if you plan to interfere.
When he points that out, I realize that there are guards starting to filter into the house as we speak, with some already searching the nearby rooms. Armed and uniformed men go about in pairs, making it so that the house is in a flurry of activity. He lets go of me then with the knowledge that I'm not going to keel over anytime soon.
I was hoping that you would be tired from dealing with the young miss on my return. Instead, you come running and hit your head. Such a troublesome boy. Shall I be carrying you to bed, too?
I can manage just fine on my own. Though I don't see how I can sleep until that woman is caught.
It'll be easier to keep you safe in your quarters. This is twice we've known the woman to break in. I think we can safely presume that you hold her interest.
He says it as a matter of fact in a tone that brook no argument. Not that I'll argue if it means I'm kept safe. The two of us hurry upstairs, though we remain watchful and wary of any potential threats to my person. Actually, I want to stop this here and continue in the next one after this. You know, I don't understand what the point of putting some of these other people in, like Ashton and Isabella and Zachary, I suppose, because it doesn't look like they get touched at any other point. At any point. They're just there.